Good morning, friends in the Netherlands, and good afternoon, all those who are joining us from Bangladesh. From the Embassy of Bangladesh in the Netherlands, uh, let me extend a very warm welcome to everyone, particularly our Dutch friends who are joining us this conclave online. I must also extend a very warm and cordial welcome to Dr. Hossein Zilur Rahman, the very distinguished chairperson of BRAC, the largest NGO, which is from Bangladesh in our midst. And we all will be engaging in a very candid conversation with him in a while. Now, to begin with, why is this conclave and how did we arrive this morning at this virtual conclave? I have joined the Netherlands as the ambassador around middle of last year, to be precise, 15th of July. And since then, my colleagues at one point of time introduced me to our very dear friend Antoinette from Niketan. And I listened to her work in Bangladesh over the 25 years, particularly how she lands on bicycle in Netherlands from Indonesia, and her love affair with Bangladesh ever since. I was surprised, to be very frank, that he biked all the way to Bangladesh. Now, gradually, as I learned of her story, I also understand that there is a number of other Dutch organizations, meaning NGOs and foundations, who are engaged in Bangladesh across a diversity of areas. As the conversations proceeded, we understand that back in 2018, if I'm right in recollecting, there was a similar conclave, essentially as a networking event between the embassy and the NGOs and foundations working in Bangladesh. So, as the idea proceeded and we realized that we would remain confined by the limits of COVID circumstances for quite some time, um, we realized that let's have a first conversation amongst us through this virtual connectivity. Now, given the expanse of the engagements of all of you across areas of development, I do believe that the works and engagements of wider civil society stands to complement our people's pursuits in development. As I did mention to His Majesty the King while I was presenting my credentials last year, I said that in spite of gaps in terms of wealth, in terms of endowment, capacity, and knowledge, our ordinary people across Netherlands and Bangladesh are bound by shared understanding of values, diligence, innovation, entrepreneurial spirit. We both are deltaic nations. We live with and prosper with water. So water may be a challenge, but also an opportunity for both our people. We celebrate pluralism, secularism, inclusion, freedom, and we also strive to champion the same for people elsewhere beyond our both our countries. Needless to say that the Bangladesh story, spread over 5 decades now, also underscores the openness and engagements with wider civil society, nationally and internationally. So, in spite of all our challenges and constraints, we don't shy away in engaging with civil society actors. Um, and this conversation today would also vindicate that most eminently. I must also say that I'm very pleased to note the diversity of areas, as I did say, of the Dutch NGOs who are engaged in. And I note that people are here from the areas of education, WASH, mental health, disability, agriculture, sustainability, food and nutrition, climate adaptation. So the expanse is pretty wide. And I do, for all the right reasons, I deem each and every one of you present from Netherlands and Bangladesh as genuine friends of Bangladeshi people uh, in Netherlands. So without further ado, let me first turn to Antoinette, and I will ask Antoinette to share your reflection as to what took you to Bangladesh 25 years back. We'll hear your story about Nikaton separately, but in general, as we open up the conversation, Antoinette, please tell us that how did you land up in Bangladesh? What has been your 3 to 4 key takeaways after being in Bangladesh for 25 years. Thank you. Over to you, Antoinette.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Ambassador, for your warm welcome to us. The three most significant changes, I think, well, one of the most is the health situation of the children. You do not see really a lot of very malnourished children anymore. Another thing, I think, it is the fact that there are much more facilities for disabled children. Back in 1993, there was a huge lack of knowledge on disability issues, and the government was not really able to give it a priority. And at the moment, you have really a lot of facilities all over Bangladesh for disabled children. And another significant change, which is maybe not really a good thing, because prosperity does not always bring good things, is the amount of cars on the road. Back in 1993, it was only rickshaws and some buses, and now Dhaka is ranking as one of the most polluted cities in the world, unfortunately. So, well, I think that for me, that was the three big significant changes in Bangladesh.
Let me now go to the main part of our this morning's conclave. Essentially, what I'd call each of you by name in terms of your organizations, and would request, as we did intimate to you, to make a very rapid fire 3-minute presentation. I know that 3 minutes is nothing, but in the interest of time that we have, we'll try to make the best use of it. Let me first come to Niketan.
Antoinette. I'm Rutger Jan, I'm the chairperson of Niketan.
Solidaridad is an organization that works in supply chains. So we work to make supply chains more inclusive and sustainable.
On this. Next is Max Foundation, Ms. Pulke.
Yes, thank you, Ambassador. And thanks for showing the slides. I'm actually the same as Antoinette, the founder of Max Foundation, only our journey was a bit different. We didn't go cycling. We actually started Max Foundation after our son Max passed away, and we wanted to get something positive out of it and wanted to prevent what happened to other children.
Thank you very much for making it so succinct. Let me turn to leprosy.
We do lobby and advocacy, which is on the get the government of Bangladesh aware of the leprosy patients and to be able for the people to get social services or assistance in income generating activities like agriculture or a piece of land.
Next is LAMP, LAMP.
Hi, yes, thank you. My name is Robert Runia from LAMP. The main involvement in Bangladesh from LAMP concerns education.
We'd have loved to hear more, but next is JW Support.
Hello, good morning. Ambassador, thanks very much for inviting us. My name is Joanna. We support especially vulnerable women and children in foreign countries.
Next on my list is Habitat.
Hello, I am James Samuel. I'm the National Director for Habitat for Humanity International. We are an organization who really focuses on shelter, which talks about a world where everyone has a decent place to live.
Thank you. Let me turn to the next presentation from Changing Lives.
Yes, thank you, Ambassador, for having me. My name is Han Tan. In daily life, I'm a medical doctor, but I'm here as a director and founder of Changing Lives Foundation. Changing Lives is an organization which focuses on health for the poorest of the poor.
Great. Let me now turn to Free a Girl. And after that, we'd hear from Ambassador Karim in the Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yes, Free a Girl, please.
Hello. So I'm Anne de Jonge. I'm the program officer, one of the program officers at Free a Girl. And Free a Girl works with 14 partner organizations in 9 different countries.
Thank you. Let me take a brief pause from the stream of presentations, and I'll now turn or bring in or introduce Ambassador Karine from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands. She's the, as I said, she's the Director for Asia and Oceania in the ministry. Karine and I have been in conversation, and I'm very sorry that I intimidated about this event or conclave a little later to you. But just to give a little context, I mean, while I bring her, next year and this year are very unique to our relations. This year, as Bangladesh is celebrating the birth centennial of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, this year, this March, actually will also will commemorate the 50 year of Bangladesh's independence. So it will be both a year-long commemoration, and that would take us to 2020, when February 2020, we will also celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relations between Netherlands and Bangladesh. It was precisely 11th of February 1972 when Netherlands came up as one of the first European countries to recognize independent Bangladesh. So Karine, warm welcome, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Riaz, and I'm very pleased to be able to listen in actually on all the presentations today. It's very good for us also from the government side to hear everything that is happening also in the people-to-people context of civil society, NGO world. So I'm very pleased to be here and able just to participate and to listen to all your very impressive presentations. Indeed, as Ambassador Riaz said, Bangladesh and the Netherlands have a very long history. To my understanding, we even recognized Bangladesh in 1971, so 1 year earlier than the ambassador said. I think we were among the first group of countries who recognized Bangladesh. And already in 1972, we opened our embassy also in Dhaka. So we were among the first countries to open embassies in Dhaka. So we have very long ties. And that may also have to do with the fact that there are many areas actually where we are connected somehow. The ambassador mentioned many shared values that we have. There are other issues as well, of course, more in geography. We're both delta countries, highly also dependent on being able to deal with the water, and the fight against the water is something that unites us as well. We're both densely populated countries, so there are many areas actually where we have similarities, and I don't think that it's that for that reason it's a miracle that we like to work together in many areas. The cooperation started mainly, of course, in development cooperation area, and that was also to a large extent in the field of water management. There has been close cooperation since 2013 after this tragedy in one of these textile factories in the Rana Plaza building. When our Minister for Development Cooperation, then Minister Ploemen, also decided to enhance cooperation with Malaysia, with Bangladesh in this area. Actually, I was ambassador to Malaysia, not to Indonesia. I have to correct you there. So, but with the Bangladesh, so and well, actually we've seen many frequent high-level visits and contacts over the last years. Of course, we had the visit of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to the Netherlands in 2015, which was the first ever visit at that level to the Netherlands. We've seen visits from our ministers. Our Queen has been to Bangladesh. We had the recent participation also of Prime Minister as the Ambassador pointed out, in the Climate Adaptation Summit, and the cooperation on climate is going to be an issue that's going to be very high on our bilateral agenda as well in the coming period. So there are many areas for cooperation, and I think many countries in the region are jealous with the close high-level contact that we have. In the past few decades, we've seen the shift actually in the relationship from a more development cooperation, or only development cooperation, to more trade cooperation. We've seen trade missions, and I think it is very important as well that we invest in the business to business. Bangladesh has been doing very well in the past 50 years. I think the idea was Bangladesh would reach the status of a middle economy by 2021. Of course, the COVID crisis is having a lot of impact everywhere. It's very important that we continue to work on all the levels, government to government, business to business, people to people, and the NGO involvement in Bangladesh. It's so good to see and to hear what is happening. I'm very pleased to be here to just to listen in. But if there's anything from your side we can do from our embassy in Dhaka, or thank you so much, and very good to have this session.
Thank you very much, Ms. Karine. In fact, just to tell you that in order to, this is not simply a monologue kind of where we are listening, but also in the later part, I think in half an hour's time, we'd also be engaging in a conversation with the BRAC chairperson, Dr. Hussein Zilur Rahman, when you'd see it would move to a completely separate level in terms of kind of introspection or sharing reflections. So that would be a true dialogue where we'd, and very absolutely, if I may say, unsanitized, no filtering. Absolutely open. Thank you indeed for setting the context as also making the corrections. Very valued. If I may now turn to the next organization, Kirk in Acti.
Yes, it's a difficult name to pronounce. But
sorry
we don't
for that.
want to have the English Church in Action because the abbreviation is not so very nice. So Kerk in Actie, we are the Global Mission Department of the Protestant Church in the Netherlands. And as such, we maintain relations with churches all around the world. And we do development projects on behalf of all the Dutch Protestant churches, local churches.
Thank you very much. Next is Psyche.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. What is our main goal is to share knowledge and skills for the Bengali people.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from PUM, P-U-M. Most of you in Netherlands would know PUM, but before I step into PUM, I must underline just two sentences. One is that, as Ambassador Karine was saying, our relationship, engagements, interaction are actually graduating very fast from ODA centricity to one of mutually beneficial or gainful economic engagements. Trade and investment are coming up, and it's I see it's not conventional investment or collaboration, economic collaboration, which is coming up. Last month, we had a series of webinars where we saw that very imminently coming up, very strongly coming up, where we focused on three areas: water and maritime, agriculture, and light engineering. All three areas where there's considerable amount of interest also from the Dutch knowledge industry, SMEs, farms, even foundations, even absolutely to engage on for-profit engagement. So here comes PUM. Yes, Wim, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Mr. de Jot. Thank you.
Please, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Wim Heijser, and I'm the country coordinator for Bangladesh for PUM Netherlands Senior Experts. PUM supports SMEs in developing countries.
Thank you indeed. I must underscore to Ambassador Karine and many others that PUM is trying to push the envelope in Bangladesh in very sincere manner. And I think 2-3 weeks back, we had an extensive 2-hour session virtually with the 7 representatives and Mr. Wim Heijser, which I think we both sides found it very beneficial. Moving on, next is the Hunger Project.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Miet Gielens and I work for the Hunger Project. The Hunger Project is an organization that was founded in 1977 in the US, more or less like in the rising debate on world hunger, which was triggered by the World Food Conference in Rome.
Thank you. Tier Fund next, please.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Ambassador, for this invitation. It's really encouraging and impressive to hear what we are all doing with the people in Bangladesh. We as Tier Fund are engaged in Bangladesh. We have 9 focus countries and Bangladesh is one of them.
Thank you. Simavi next, please.
So, thank you, Ambassador, for inviting us. It's a very informative and very good presentations we heard so far. CIMAVI as an international NGO is established in 1925 by a group of Dutch doctors. It primarily was aiming to provide medicine support to Indonesia.
Thank you, Mr. Mojumdar. Free Press Unlimited, please.
Yes, I'm the project coordinator for Asia within Free Press Limited. Free Press Limited is an NGO that ensures that impartial news and information are available to all people across the world.
Thank you. Aflatun International, please.
Good morning, Your Excellency, Ambassador Reyes, and good morning, everyone. So yeah, Aflatun International is an NGO registered as a Dutch NGO based in Amsterdam. We are a specialized organization developing life skill and financial education for children and young people.
Thank you. I'm afraid we are running short of time, and so I would request the remaining ones who we will invite to make it very precise and succinct. I know that the preceding ones have tried to do that, but still, in the interest of time. Friendship, Betiki, next, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Well, actually, we met in September. I still have very good memories of our meeting in The Hague. Thank you for organizing this event. It's very impressive, the quantity and quality of the programs and the organizations presented. Friendship actually is founded by Runa Khan in Bangladesh 20 years ago to improve the lives of the people living in the northern delta part of Bangladesh.
Thank you. Kit, next, please. KIT.
Yes, thank you, Ambassador, for the invitation. KIT was founded in 1910, and we are actually an international knowledge institute, which provides knowledge to all kinds of partners, governments, NGOs, and private corporations around the world.
Thank you. I'll go to next is MSF Médecins Sans Frontières. But after that, we'll bring in Dr. Hossein Zillur Rahman, because I hope you'd all bear with us that we have kept him in waiting and we have actually sliced a bit of his valued time. So we'll shift to that part. We'll have a conversation time. So MSF, please.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation. MSF is now since 1972 active in Bangladesh, where we started 50 years ago with supporting local charity organizations.
We have so far heard, I think, to my estimation, 20 organizations. The guest of honor, essentially, who comes with a considerable amount of wisdom, expertise, and experience. Let me tell a little of Dr. Hossein Zillur Rahman. I have known him since he got involved in the Independent South Asia Commission on Poverty Alleviation for SAARC. That was almost 20 years back. And since then, most recently, he has taken over the chairmanship of BRAC. No introduction is needed about BRAC. But apart from that hat of his, he is also recognized, if I may say, an anthropologist by training, a rural sociologist more precisely. That's what I knew of him. Also, as a leading policy expert, most recently, in recent years, he is more focused also on urban areas, urbanization, also on local governance in a more wider context. And so put together for the last over 3 decades, he has been observing the transformation in Bangladesh in very many ways, from different positions, different capacities. He also runs his own think tank, which is PPRC, based in Dhaka. Also very much connected to the grassroots. So what I may choose or take the liberty of posing him essentially is that, I mean, COVID has shaken everyone anywhere, no exception. In Bangladesh, particularly when one would look at the rural society and economy, what are the kind of things or shreds that you would note, sir, that COVID has kind of jolted, and what it would impact? So essentially, simply put, What do you see? What do you sense?
Thank you, Ambassador Riaz. And I was fascinated to listen to the 20 organizations and was very heartened to hear of this wide range of areas that the Dutch NGOs have been working in Bangladesh. Also glad to hear from Ambassador Karine. COVID, how has COVID impacted? Some of the impact, of course, is known to everyone. It's common around the world. But how the pandemic like this impacts on societies also depends on the nature of the society itself. And I just want to take a minute to really bring out the specificity of Bangladesh. I mean, there are statistics by which we can understand Bangladesh, growth, trade, poverty alleviation, etc., etc. But I think what the range of organizations working here, you obviously are working on a very wide canvas. And the interesting thing to know about Bangladesh is that it is more of an initiative-driven society than a policy-driven society. I think that's a very important sort of a DNA type of description of a country. So policy is also important, but initiatives really come to the fore. COVID, how has COVID impacted? It has impacted, of course, in multiple ways. One of the responses was it accelerated the turn to digital technology. It was done not just by those who have the resources, but also by the poor, but it has also worsened the digital divide. So there is obviously a task there about digital inclusion to be ensured. But in terms of sort of a mental shift of using technology, particularly digital technology, I think it has now gone beyond specialist sectors to the society at large. Even the pedagogy in our traditional schools is now having to take on board. And not just in the wake of the digital technology, even the century-old method of rote learning is now being challenged. Assignment-based classes are being experimented. So there is a sort of a new, under obviously a huge crisis, there is a new type of receptive mood, you might say. Obviously, as I said, there is digital divide also has been worsening, but which means that there is opportunities to address that divide. But in terms of the mood, there is I think, mood in terms of accepting the technological pathways to try and find solutions to familiar problems. I think that's a new phenomena that I'm looking at. But the new poor is like there's those who have been dealing with the poor now really need to really go back to their toolbox to look at newer type of clientele. You have to really deal with them. These are people who are not with the usual poverty mindset. They're looking for different type of solutions to the problems of poverty. Then you have the problem of what is called, we have a new unprecedented, I would say, phenomena of an exit from the cities. Under the pressure of the COVID impact, maybe it may be short-lived, but certainly over the last year, a sizable part of these sort of lower middle class population who are not really part of the poor had to leave capital cities like Dhaka to secondary cities or to villages. And there's a ferment there as to how will they relocate? What will they do? And that is about rural SMEs, rural, even agriculture. Are there new pathways to look for there? There's a huge new ferment there actually. And of course, there is also the problem of the return migrants from abroad, fairly large number. have returned from abroad. And there's a new clientele here who are also looking for new solutions. These are at the level of the people, the impact of the COVID. But at the level of the system, what it has done, I noted that there was one organization working on supply chains. Because certainly the global economy has taken a hit, some of the sectors in Bangladesh linked to the global economy also have taken a hit, not necessarily so much the RMG sector, but some other sectors. Supply chains have been disrupted. So there is a challenge and a necessity to really look, not so much look inward, but look at the domestic economy for the next growth drivers. I mean, that's maybe you will, some of these domestic sectors may eventually turn out to be the future export sectors. But there is a important moment here of trying to find the new growth drivers in the domestic economy, thinking of agriculture, certainly SMEs, but also thinking of the agriculture and the non-agriculture as a continuum rather than very distinct sectors actually. Even rural urban in Bangladesh context, no longer it makes sense to talk of rural urban as a divide. It's more of a continuum. From Dhaka down to Satkira or beyond, it's a continuum, and you have to look at really different types of solutions for the urban also. Now, Ambassador Karine mentioned, and also our Ambassador Riaz also mentioned, that one of the transformation of Bangladesh over the last 50 years has been that we have moved from a development cooperation based to an aid-dependent country. Now, that's, in statistical sense, that's true. But I want to really reflect on the implications part of it. For entities like yourself and for entities like BRAC or for other, even for governments, from aid, development aid to trade, this transition, does it mean that we basically, is it a sectoral transition? Does it mean that we drop the clientele of yesterday and engage with the clientele of tomorrow? Or can we take yesterday's clientele also along with us to tomorrow's engagement? That's a very important question to ask. And I think the question here is how you think about the poor. The poor, I think, there is an important part of our own mindsets to shift also about how we think about the poor. Because the poor, there is, of course, the very, very vulnerable. They have to be obviously given social public support as before. But there is a segment within the poor who have both a capacity and a willingness to pay, but they're looking for quality, cost-effective solutions to their multiple type of problems. That's a huge clientele. So I think it is very important as we think about Bangladesh's transition from development aid to trade dependence. It doesn't mean that we now have to, even from not-for-profit to profit transition for entities like yourself, it should not automatically mean that yesterday's work dealing with the poor, the less vulnerable, the less advantaged is no longer relevant. It is equally relevant for tomorrow, actually. But you need new solutions. You need new type of work to be done there. And as I said, there is a willingness to pay within this vast one sector. Obviously, there is one sector for whom we will continue, and government of our countries also will have to give those public resources for the most vulnerable, the marginal, the excluded, the disabled, the very remote locations. Those obviously are there, but there is this new reality. And I think for development thinkers, I feel personally that it is important to make that message. This transition is both real and it demands new type of engagement. And we need to read those new areas. And I think, as I said, the for-profit, within that segment, we can choose areas where, for example, BRAC chose to work with rural artisans who are actually part of that yesterday's poor. These rural artisanal workers, women particularly. But now BRAC has built a, 1,000 crore taka flagship of Arong, giving access to those same people. So it's, I think, particularly what I request, and I think I really would welcome and invite that the Dutch, those who are present on today's conclave and those who are not, that there is a vast opportunity opening up here. But it requires the type of solutions where it's, as I said, there is the for-profit sector, but where you go out to find out sectoral areas which gives benefit to the less advantaged. And you don't need to give it, you don't need to make it like a charity sort of thing here. The real solution needed is, in Dhaka, for example, the poor, I've done research myself, is that in Dhaka itself, the poor often pay more than the rich in terms of, if you think of per square feet housing, per food cost, etc., etc. So they are already paying and they are prepared to pay. Our out-of-pocket expense for healthcare is over 70%. We are already paying 70% of total health expenditures in Bangladesh is out of our own pockets because we don't have health insurance, etc., which means that there are people willing to pay, but they are not willing to be fleeced. They are wanting for some quality, lower cost solutions, which works for them in a good manner. So that is, I think, is something that we should look for. And I think, again, we, Bangladesh is, you think of Bangladesh agriculture as, if you think of it from yesterday's Satyajit Roy's films, you will really not recognize today's Bangladesh agriculture because it's almost wholly mechanized, and it happened with the illiterate peasantry. So huge adaptive mindset at work here. So what I would like to really end on is that there is COVID, certainly COVID impact has opened up, both created a new ground realities which need to be tapped, but as a whole, it has also in a way exposed certain earlier vulnerabilities, but really pushed the move towards looking for new solutions. But here, I'll come back to the first point that I made, that Bangladesh is more of an initiative-driven society than a policy-driven society. So policy comes in, certainly, but after initiatives have created some ground realities. And that's how policy has either supported or hindered progress. So here there are multiple opportunities to work on. Agriculture, as I said, is a huge area to work on. Nutrition, land use, marketing, massive areas. Climate is again, it's not just a social good type of thing. There are actual, work to be done there. SME is a massive sector, particularly, I think now, that is the big sector to work on. Health, SRHR, skills, education, you name it. And I was very impressed to hear about the knowledge product, the KIT, the knowledge organization. That is also so critical here, I think, that we really look forward to these sort of partnerships. Bangladesh post-COVID, let's not look at Bangladesh through the usual statistics. As I said, I'm an economist and we tend to describe realities through certain type of statistics. But when you are trying to engage with society, the first slide maybe useful for these statistics.
Thank you indeed, sir. And thank you each and everyone who have logged, particularly our Dutch friends. And I say that your friends of Bangladesh without any qualification. It's not been easy, and time is precious, but even though we are in lockdown situation, particularly in the Netherlands. But I would only conclude with the following notes. One is that this was simply not a networking event. When we spoke with Antoinette, we thought that it's not simply a get together. It should not be, so that we really come with value addition. And it was Antoinette's idea essentially that we bring in someone with whom there could be a conversation. And I think the conversation that we just had, that imminently vindicates that. Secondly, we'll try to make a summary and without any ascribing, and we'll try to share with that. And thirdly, if any of you would like to ask or share anything or get connected with someone, feel free to ask. For privacy restrictions, we are not sharing the contacts. I hope you'd appreciate that. But still, we remain open in terms of being the connector or connecting with anyone and everyone. On that note, let me also recognize the efforts made by two of my colleagues in the High Commission, in the embassy, Mr. Etashamal Komir and Norid. They have been silent, they are in the backdrop. But also there is a young Dutchman, Thomas, who has been helping us this morning in terms of bringing this to fruition. So once again, thank you. Have a good afternoon, a good evening in Dhaka.
Thank you.
Great day.